Hi, welcome to Real Film Snobs. I'm Angela Yeager.
And I'm Brian Michael. Today we have a special episode. Not only because we're time traveling, this has been shot, when you see this, this will be, it's now is 2 months before when you see the episode. Yeah. So, and I should still have my beard in December. Merry Christmas. There's a special episode where it's a samurai episode that Angela and I decided to cobble together because we had a lot of samurai movies we wanted to watch, and most of them are samurai movies, but some of them just have samurai swords, and that was close enough for me. So let's just begin the special episode, shall we?
Yes. Let's get off of
Let's
that
start
train.
with Harakiri from 1962. This is directed by Masaki Kobayashi. And this has a Ronin who's came to a lord's manor in order to commit suicide, or Harakiri. And when he gets there, he finds that the lord tells him the story that a lot of people have been coming here because they either will get money to go away. And there's actually a connection in the story that he tells that unfolds in fantastic, fantastic ways. And so it's nice seeing the kind of like the flashback kind of reminds me a little bit of Rashomon, just because because of the same country there as well as the filmmaking. But this is a really, really cool film. I enjoy this. I'm going to say it a lot. That's my review. It's really, really cool. I love the way this film actually unfolded. We're being told these stories. We know for a reason why all of a sudden we're hearing this other story about this other samurai who had come to commit suicide, and we're like, well, why is he telling us the story going on and on and on? And what they do is they force this person to go through with the ceremony in a very brutal way because he was so poor. He was expecting to get some money instead, and he had sold his sword and has a bamboo sword, and so they forced him to commit suicide using the bamboo sword.
Yeah,
I don't want to give much more away than that, but it's a
and that's all at the beginning.
Film.
That it unfolds from there. Yeah.
And this is a classic film.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You know, the nice thing about samurai films, which we're reviewing sort of 5 samurai films tonight, is that, you know, you might think it's like a genre, you know, it's like a genre like any other, like Westerns or whatever, where, you know, the one thing they have in common is samurai or swords or this kind of thing, but you can tell so much variety of stories, which we'll explore as we go through this episode. So this one is a much more measured type of film, told really in a storytelling method. You know, it is visual in terms of there's some nice tracking shots and some nice shots, but it's not as visual as some of the films we'll be reviewing later on that just have like these really cool sequences that are just amazing and just really, really cool. This one is really much more about the storytelling and watching this unfold, and it really is sort of a fable. I would almost call it like a moral fable of sorts because, you know, as this man's telling the story, then the Lord tells his story, and then it goes back on to the samurai who's come to his doorstep asking to commit harakiri to then tell his story, and then you really get some more surprises unfolding, and he's kind of turning the tables on the feudal lord. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And I didn't really know where it was going. I didn't understand what his connection was going to be to the young guy, so once that unfolded, that was really interesting.
You know, for the most part, a lot of these films really do take their time telling their story and are nicely paced. And, you know, to compare them to the Western, of course, you know, because the Seven Samurai inspired, hey, The Magnificent Seven was out this year. I didn't see it. But, you know, there's a man with a code that comes in. He's a gunslinger in many ways. And they, you know, so that's the kind of the parallel there. So if you're someone who likes Western films and you haven't seen a lot of samurai pictures, trust me, you're going to thoroughly enjoy them. If you're enjoy the more artistic versions, you know, in terms of art house films, these are total art house films. Not just because they're foreign, but because just the way that their stories are being told.
Is amazing.
The photography, you know, is fantastic. The payoff in this movie, what I really, really want to talk about, we'll have to talk about it afterwards, but the payoff in this film is so. Again, I can't help but use the word cool. It's just such a cool way of having the story to have a great twist on this. All the performances, of course, are fantastic. When it's foreign films, you can't really tell for the most part. Yeah.
Well, yes, you can. You can tell acting regardless of language. What are you talking about?
Well, no, but sometimes when it's a foreign language, you don't necessarily know if they're saying things correctly or they're kind of
but performances in the face and the eyes, and these are great performances.
But it's also going to be in the subtitles and also in the way that someone also is interpreting things too. So it's always kind of an interesting way. But I did enjoy this one an awful lot. This is a black and white film. It's a beautiful film. It's pretty much just told what 2 or 3 different sets we have in here.
Yeah.
And
you have the main house, and then in the flashback, the his house. So
Yeah.
there's a couple homes.
And then, of course, with most samurai movies, darn near all the ones we have here, there's a duel, there's some fighting, so there's a lot of action in there. That's absolutely fantastic in this one.
Sword fighting.
Thoroughly enjoyed, yeah, as opposed to gunfighting, which we've seen so many times, as Americans, we see it all the times in our films. So sword fighting is actually
something
pretty
different.
sweet.
Well, it's easier to be creative with swords because you can jump around. I mean, guns, you can be creative, but at some point, someone's just gonna pull the trigger and shoot.
Yeah, so this one is kind of interesting. It's mostly the story, and I don't want to give anything more away about what exactly
It's just
is
very different
happening
from our
there.
very next one that you're going to introduce,
Yes.
which is a lot more visual in terms of being kind of crazy, cultish type. Not cultish like cults, but like you could see it being a cult movie because the visuals are so wild.
Yeah, now if you remember way back in the day when you had video stores and you walked past the foreign section, this film always stuck out to me. It's Onibaba from 1964, directed by Kaneto Shindô. And it has a very startling cover with a mask that plays a big part in the film itself. But it's one that always stuck out to me whenever I saw it, and I just never go around to seeing it. And of course, what happened to the Blockbuster video stores? No, it wasn't Blockbuster, it was Hollywood. Oh, I miss those days. But now you can find everything online, so there's a good thing there. So that's what a great thing about this list of films that we're looking at. You can find those pretty much anywhere. This one has two women who kill samurai. So when we looked at the descriptions, it had samurai in it. So we're like, hey, samurai episode, let's do this. They kill samurai and sell their armor for money because after the revolution, or it's the Civil War, many people, these farmers are very, very poor, and so that's the only way that they're able to find money. Well, the younger of the two women starts to have an affair with one of the returning warriors who has his camp or his hut is down the ways a little bit, and so the older one becomes very jealous. Now in her journey, she bumps into a samurai who's traveling and wants to find his way home, and he wears this grotesque mask that's very startling. And she finds a way to dispose of him, takes the mask to use to scare the young woman, and saying that he's a ghost or a spirit, and that she's not allowed to be going out and seeing this guy. And so uses fear tactics to keep her away from him.
Yeah, which is crazy.
This is a beautiful, beautiful black and white film, shown a lot in the fields with tall grass that sways back and forth. And again, Kurosawa is very much present there. And the way the story unfolds, which I've given a lot of it away, is brilliant and beautifully done.
It is beautiful. It's also a really weird movie. For people that like weird movies, it's a pretty weird movie.
Is it?
So these two women are, how should we say it? It's a wasteland out there. I mean, it's beautiful because of the, tall grass and everything.
Oh, in black and white, it takes away all the grime and grass.
Yeah, but they're very poor. They're beyond poor. There's like a level beyond poor. That's where they are. I mean, they are literally just fighting for their survival. Remind me, their characters are sort of like animals. I mean, they just aren't, they're killing these samurai and they're just doing whatever they can to survive. And their appearance goes with that. They're undressed half the time and very unkempt looking, and their behavior is pretty wild. And the daughter is just going after this guy, and they're just kind of going like they're like little rabbits. And it's all very, everyone's just interested in their senses. They're just wanting to eat and, do other carnal pleasures, and that's about it, And so you don't think it's a weird movie? It's pretty weird.
I don't know, but when you see this movie, let us know which one you saw. Did you see the one I described, or did you see the one you described? Yeah, there's certainly some sweat in this movie. It did remind me a little bit of A Woman in the Dunes, one of my all-time favorite films.
That's what I was going to mention, which is also a very weird movie.
Love this film.
It has a creepy, almost horror. I wouldn't say it's a horror movie, but it has elements of horror in it.
The older woman doesn't want her to leave because one, it's kind of her companion. It's her daughter-in-law, and she's kind of her companion now, as in terms of they're partners in crime, and she can't do these crimes alone. So she relies on her,
Although
but
I'm not
she
so sure about that,
also relies a little bit on her, for companionship, as well as just being able to to not keep your sanity, because if you're by yourself too long, that happens. And so I like that relationship that they have. When he comes in, of course, he's very rugged and kind of gross, and she's attracted to him. I got 5 sisters, so I've seen that happen many, many times. And so when she sees that she's going to be taken away by this other guy, she does anything and everything she can
but
to keep her.
The use of the mask is really cool, though.
Man.
The shots.
When she gets the mask, though, first of all, that is really, really creepy, and the way she's able to steal it. Yeah. Then when she does wear the mask, and is kind of floating and flying through it.
Right.
It's
It looks like it's
fantastic.
flying through the grass. It's
It does
amazing.
look like a fable. Would you say it was a fable?
Yeah, like a horrific fable, like something
Yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe would have written or something. I don't
Yeah.
know, just something really creepy and weird. Yeah,
Totally worth seeing.
really
though.
great. No,
Absolutely
I really
fantastic.
enjoyed it.
No.
We were watching it, just both exclaiming as we were watching, like, "Oh gosh, what's going on with these?"
Yeah, and this is also this one. I think it also is Harakiri was also as a Criterion. So if you're a film snob out there, you know what Criterion means. And if you're not, that's a distributor that does a great job of restoring films. And when they restore a film, aside from a couple different titles, for the most part, there's reason to check these out. And these two are definitely
Definitely
two
up
to
there,
find.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll move on to our next not so samurai film. Lady Snowblood from 1973, and this was one actually Brian picked that he'd already seen before, and it tells the story of a woman who is seeking vengeance on her mother's behalf. And I don't want to give too much away, but I will say, I mean, if you've seen Kill Bill, you will know that this is the movie that heavily influenced Kill Bill. Tarantino made all the cast watch this movie. When you watch it, and I hadn't seen it up until now, as I was watching it, I'm like, wow, he really took a lot from this movie. So there was actually a lot of ripped off from Lady Snowblood. So if you are a Tarantino fan, you can't say you're a fan, I suppose, entirely until you've seen Lady Snowblood. It's a really cool movie. She is an assassin who goes after all these people that really, have hurt her birthright, that injured her, have taken away her family. And so she has vengeance. It's a vengeance story, just like Tarantino. It's got amazing visuals, these beautiful scenes, like, of course, the snow falling on her black hair and these beautiful kimonos she's wearing. And then they make great use of these, these white kimonos. She's wearing white backgrounds. And then as she, rips into someone with her sword, of course, the blood spraying on the white, lots of, if you want to see lots of scenes of blood spraying, Tarantino didn't invent that, people. It's been done before, and it was done in Japan, so make sure to check out Lady Snowblood. It's a very cool movie.
And I'm glad, again, I believe this one also was a Criterion one, because for the longest time it was considered a grindhouse picture, in those
like
70s.
Kind of more of a B type thing, yeah.
Yeah, B-movie, there's certainly revenge picks, certainly females, that's, the action lead, that's what a lot of them were. But this is a absolutely stark, just beautiful looking film. I shouldn't say stark, but it's a beautiful looking film, just the fantastic colors. And I love the, certainly with her being a woman and in, that day and age in Japan, she wasn't seen as a threat. So whenever she would be able to come right up on whoever she was going to assassinate, because they were just like, hey, lady, get out of the way. And of course she would have her little umbrella that doubled as a sword, and
I know, it's she's walking in those little steps, and then all of a sudden she goes up to a guy, pulls the umbrella out. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty badass.
See, it's really hard not to say really cool. It's really
I know.
cool.
I don't know what else
It's
to say
such a
about
cool movie. And there is a sequel. The sequel, isn't as much. And of course, there was some scenes I had mixed up with. They called her One Eye, but that's a totally different movie. Don't see that movie. I don't want to get a bunch of mail. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one. But she isn't a samurai. But I was so jazzed about getting to see this film that I forgot that, yes, she's an assassin. But I was thinking samurai sword. Yeah, that's a samurai movie. I've been wanting you to see this for some time. I think I've
not sure that there even a samurai in this movie. But yeah.
Well, she may have killed one, maybe, or maybe one passed by in the street, maybe.
Yeah, and compared to, I think, Onibaba, or our first film that we reviewed, I wouldn't say the acting, this is why it's more of a B movie, because you can tell acting through languages. The acting in this is a little bit more of a B movie acting. Some of the people are really over the top and exaggerated.
That's kind of a style, and there might be a little more close-ups, and you're just waiting for the Tarantino bump, bump, that type of look in there.
Right, there's a little bit more of that.
I'm not getting any of the Angela female empowerment, social kind of nothing. Where is it? That's what I was waiting for. Yes,
you were waiting for me to talk about
I'm waiting for you to do this. Yes,
well, because she's claiming vengeance. Well, it's already. I mean, it's ingrained in the very plot of the movie. She's seeking revenge on her mother's behalf, and it's her birthright. And she, it's supposed to keep passing on forever. So I don't know why I need to explore that. It's in the plot.
Isn't it nice to see an action film with a female lead?
No,
here?
it's very cool. She's very
cool.
and she doesn't need a man to save her. In fact, the guy who does try to come in towards the end, you think he's going to become more of a hero, but he doesn't. I mean, he tries to help, but he's not.
Yeah, you'd expect
it
as soon as he shows up, if he grabs her hand and starts pulling her around,
No, that's
Just-
not. It's not that
just
kind of movie. Thankfully.
Ruined absolutely everything in it, though.
Yeah, it's not that kind of movie, very thankfully. But yeah, no, the visuals alone, I would say, it's definitely more over the top, so very different from Harakiri, for instance, which was very subtle. So
Yeah.
that's what
This
I was
is
saying.
more of a crowd pleaser, I think.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
a lot of
more
fun.
populous
Yeah,
film.
actually, and a lot more violent too. Although I guess all of them are violent to a certain degree.
Being killed by a samurai sword is a very violent way to go, no matter
Regardless of how you hack it, how you chop it. Trying to do some bad samurai puns. Okay.
I already made that, and they saw it.
Okay, Twilight Samurai is our next movie, and this one is from 2002, and it follows a poor, low-ranking samurai who is forced to fight for his clan. He is a widower who is raising his 2 daughters and his elderly mother on his own, and just kind of plodding along doing his thing, and actually very happy doing that. He really doesn't have ambitions to become a great warrior, fighter, and really wants to stay out of the fray, wants to just farm, and he pushes paper during the day. They have this sort of bureaucratic samurai clan that he belongs to. He goes in and clocks in and does something, not exactly sure what, sort of an accountant, he's counting beans or something. And then he goes back home. No, at some point there's these sacks of beans and they ask him how many are in the bag.
Yeah,
so he's literally a bean counter.
He's taking care of the inventory as well.
Yeah, but I did have he's literally a bean counter, so I thought it was kind of funny because there's beans anyway. So we'll go. And I think it was beans. But anyway, so we'll move on. So he's very happy with his life, but then the situation comes up where he has to fight in one situation, and then he gets sort of a reputation, and then the clan kind of brings him in to deal with another situation that they have. And what's interesting is sort of like Harakiri, this one is very much about sort of the class issues, about the poverty of samurai. You think of these samurai being these noble profession, that these are the warriors, these are the military of their time, and this is showing the other side of that, which apparently there were samurai were in the levels, and you could be a samurai, you were basically at birth in this kind of caste, almost like a caste system. You were at this level and you're never going to make more than that. And he is a poor samurai. That's what he's always going to make. And he just gets further and further into debt.
Well, in times of peace, there's no need for a samurai, so they take these jobs that are lower paid. Now, I think it's interesting that you described that he's happy with his life. His wife passed. He has 2 daughters he's helped trying to raise, and his mother, who's very ill, is living with him as well, and he's not making enough money, and his wife's funeral is what is one of the reasons that he's poor. He's not having a good life, but he's pushing forward. He's very proud.
Well, he's doing okay. I mean, he's not.
Okay.
He's surviving, but I don't think he wants to fight. It's not like something where like, this is my desire to go fight in life.
This and it's really tough to say which one I enjoyed the most. I think this one might be the one just by a hair. I really enjoyed because there is a fight. There is a point where he has to go in and be a samurai and do what he has to do, because that's what he's called on to do, and he has a sense of honor. But 2 hours before that, we really get to learn about him, his story, his everyday life. There's a woman who comes back from his childhood who's very smitten, and she kind of comes into the life, and they deal with their relationship. And
There's
it's one of those things
romance.
where it's a period piece, and you can't really come out and say this was because she doesn't think she'd be happy with his money. She's in love with him, and he doesn't want. It just kind of goes back and forth. And so when it all culminates before this big battle, it's just like, oh my gosh, please just say how you feel. Please just say how you feel. Please make your, and he's making arrangements just in case he doesn't come back, but then he decides, whatever that is. I'm not going to give too much away. But by the time this battle comes in, I mean, I'm on the edge of my seat.
You're very invested in the characters, yeah.
Very, very much so. And then the most surprising thing happens in this battle. They have a conversation.
Yeah.
And they sit and talk. And it's just like, it is such a... Yeah, I would say this is the film I love the best out of all of them. And I thoroughly enjoyed. All of them were 4 stars for me, but this is the one that really stuck out for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this film because, by the time the battle comes, it's just like, okay, there's that part where you're a film snob and you go, if you have a happy ending and you tie a bow on it, I'm going to knock points of it because that's too easy. but then there's a party that goes, please wrap it up and be nice because I really like these characters and I want to see the best for them. So it's just, it really has you pulling both sides.
It's a full character. I mean, he is like a very likable character.
Yes.
I mean, you just really feel for this guy and his situation, and you get to know his whole life. I would say more so than any of the other films. This is really a fully developed character. It's almost more of just a drama where he happens to be a samurai, basically. Than any of the other films.
And they do have, there's one somewhat cliche moment, but I don't mind, is that there's someone who has to go in there, he's going to be a second for someone because he's going to fight this, his friend is going to fight. And his friend cannot fight, so he steps in for him, and you find out that he is this amazing fighter. And he has a bamboo sword, which now has a whole new meaning to me after Harakiri, and pretty much beats down on this guy, and they find out that he has a past of he's not just the bean counter, he's pretty darn good, which is the reason why they call him.
Even though he's out of shape, and so he also comments on that.
In his opinion, I mean, he still puts the smackdown on the guy in a very funny and very satisfying scene. So I absolutely love that. Even though we talk about how serious and beautiful and violent these films can be, there are moments of great humor and.
And I would say this is the one, if you're not sure you like samurai movies, start with Twilight Samurai, because it's really just a drama that tells a good story that happens to, I mean, I really do feel like it just happens to have samurai in it the most out of all of these. I wouldn't start with Onibaba, because then you'd be like, what are the real film snobs recommend me to watch? This movie's weird.
Ooh, unless it's like, it's a good Halloween movie too.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But we're in Christmas now, so.
That's right. Yes. This is in 2015. Who's going to win the election? So the last movie is The Blind Swordsman, Zatoichi, directed by Takeshi Kitano, and who is his stage name?
Beat Takeshi,
who also stars in the film as the Blind Swordsman. The Blind Swordsman is also a traveling, lonely masseuse who comes into a warring town, and that sounds familiar, and meets these two women who have their own agenda in terms of a revenge plot that they have. Mm-hmm. Now, this is another wonderful film that actually has. A full city. We get to meet the full town. It reminds me an awful lot of Yojimbo or Senjuro, where we get to Senjuro, excuse me, thank you, that has a whole town, and we get to meet everyone in this town. And some people have secrets, and some of those secrets are revealed at the very end, which is fascinating. And then there's some secrets, especially when it comes to the two young ladies and why they're there with their agenda, that's absolutely fantastic. And his character, the Blind Swordsman, who this is one of the movie in a very, very long series that came back from all the way back to the 60s, he's almost a side character in many parts, because the film kind of leaves him and follows these other characters, which is something I always say, I wish we could follow that character. This film does that and follows everyone around and just creates this whole world. You have this, you have the bartender, and the bartender's the old man is what they call him in the movie, who's the sidekick to the bartender. Yep. You have two different gangs, so you have to keep those straight. There's the gambling hall and all the characters in the gambling hall. There's the aunt, you forgot about her. So there's this aunt who is this woman, just a local farmer, really, who the Blind Swordsman is living with temporarily. And then there is her nephew, who is a gambling addict, who also takes up with the swordsman. I mean, the character's gone. There's the neighbor next door, the samurai kid.
Oh, I forgot about him.
Who's a few stones short that runs around randomly with a sword, screaming and yelling, and disappears.
Right. This is a very different kind of movie. The flavor of Beat Takeshi, he's known. No, I thought it was terrific. This was, I think, one of the most entertaining of all these films by far. Yes. If you just wanted just pure kicks, just chuck. You and I were laughing a lot. It has a lot of humor. This is by far the funniest of these movies. We laughed a lot. There is a lot of music in the movie, which you did not enjoy as much. But I thought the music fit.
No, I didn't mind that. Well, no, now you're talking about the score. Now, sure, there was some score where they used synthesizer that I didn't care too much. But there are these little in-between scenes, in plays where they're changing the scenery in the background, they play some music, and maybe there's some dancers up there, or when you see Cher in concert, they do that. And they would cut away to these people either out in the field that were dancing rhythmically, and they had them going along with a score, and the score was done with percussion. So these dancers were dancing along to the drum beat. They would also make the sounds, make the drum beat sound like the noise that they were making, or they cut to where someone was building
I thought the use of audio was
building
really
a house.
Great.
And it was the hammers, all these different hammers, and that was the sounds they were making in between these chapters in the film. It's absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, it ends
With
a coda with a big dance off with all of the
Did you
cast
not
in
mind
it.
that? Because I know in like Slumdog Millionaire, you hated that it ended with dancing. So
I
was
didn't like
wondering
that
what you thought of it
that
in this
movie
one.
was because of the tone of the movie being so serious. All of a sudden, to cut into this happy thing, it didn't like that. This one I didn't mind because it was so left field in a way that I didn't mind that at all.
But there was things like that throughout the movie, just random stuff that happened. Yeah, it's very like offbeat and unexpected throughout the movie. He's just constantly surprising you. The characters don't do what you think they might do, and they're constantly surprising you and just dropping lots of quips and jokes and very entertaining. I enjoyed
we
this
watched
one
this one
thoroughly.
together. We did. We
were just cracking
we
up.
just had a good time with this film. Now I had heard about this because it was from 2003, and it just had taken me this many years to get around to finally 12. No. It's 2015, right?
16.
And so it took me a while to finally get to see this one. I'm really, really happy we got to see it with this. And so with these films, you get to see a whole gambit and not one Kurosawa film. It's pretty impressive. We can pat ourselves on the back.
Well, we've reviewed a lot of his on the show already. Not every
But
single one,
here
I
you
guess.
get all kinds of different stories that deal with samurai or maybe have a samurai or samurai sword. Lady Snowblood, that's okay. And so here you get all kinds of
There's
different ways to
swords
kind
in
of go
every
there.
film.
There's
We can say
yes,
that, right?
For sure. There are people who are killed.
There are people
maybe
holding
with-
swords.
Yes, with swords. So that would be the samurai episode. Now, I already said I'm going to give them all 4 stars. What about you?
Enjoyed every single one thoroughly. God, you said, so your number 1 pick would be Twilight Samurai?
Yeah.
I'm
And the
having a
Blind
hard
Swordsman
time.
would be second.
I think my number
These are
1.
by hairs.
I
mean,
know, this is
split
hard.
them.
My number 1 pick is Onibaba. Because that's the one
Really?
that's the one after I saw it, I thought, I think I'd like to own that. Because I want to show people this movie so that, sort of like Woman in the Dunes, where they'd go, what is going on in this movie? I like
Which
stuff
one
like
was
that.
it? I didn't care too much for the look of the Twilight Samurai. Someone needs to remaster that one. That was the one that I had a hard time with. I mean,
I know, and that's the only reason.
It was
Yeah,
a bad
but it was-
transfer.
yeah, the-
Criterion, you're watching, get out on it. Let's
Yeah,
do
that
this
one.
too.
That one's a little bit. It looks sort of like TV-ish,
Little
like
video-y.
kind of. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
but thoroughly enjoyable. I'm glad that you enjoyed the different one. Your first pick was different than mine. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of work out there, Snobs, and find these films. Some are streaming, some you can rent online, some you'll just have to hope somebody puts it on YouTube or whichever, or you can go to a revival house if you have one local there. Harakiri, Onibaba, as well as Lady Snowblood, the Twilight Samurai, and the Blind Swordsman Zatoichi. And the Blind Man Zatoichi, there are like 20 other films. And many of them are in high regard.
Very famous character.
Yeah. So I got to get through those.
We
There's
didn't
ones in
review the
80s,
original
60s,
one for the
70s, yeah.
purists out there, because then we felt like there's 50 of them, literally, or something, and we just couldn't. So
There's
we're
a
starting
ton.
with the new one that's a revival, and some people took offense that Beat Takeshi,
Yeah.
took liberties with the character, but since we don't hold the
I don't mind
character
that.
sacred, we enjoyed it.
The end result is all that matters, and it's a fantastic film. So certainly we want you to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, listen to us on KMUZ, visit our website at realfilmsnobs.com and submit a viewer's pick. We want to thank our wonderful sponsors, our amazing crew here, as well as my wonderful co-host. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a great day and great movies.